Mr. Anderson, we'll start with you. Just kind of want you each give us a little bit about yourselves and why you're running for office.
Okay, I moved down here in, I say 70, from Chicago, Illinois, and I've been a resident here 41 years, and I've just always been interested in the community and the people here. I think we have I know it's a great community, and I've kind of seen it slide away since back in the days when I was growing up. We never locked doors, and your neighbor was your neighbor. And we just seems to have a lot of criminal element, and it's just unrest. And I'm thinking what I'm here for is to try to get everyone engaged into what the city is doing, so you won't totally feel left out. You know, when people sometimes feel left out, they feel like they don't care. What I say, what I do is not going to matter, but it does. And I just want to get the community and the city council to kind of let the word get out whenever certain things or topics are up. I know you do the best, they do the best they can with the radio, TV, and news, but it's other ways, high traffic areas and things. Bring people more together and make them feel like they're included, and then they would care more. We get back to our loving ways that we had when I first was a youngster in this community.
Okay, thanks.
Jamie Duies. I'm originally from sort of a little farther north in Illinois. I moved here when I was in high school, graduated from Eisenhower High School in '91, Milliken in '95, and then I went back and earned an MBA, which I graduated in 2001. Lived in Decatur off and on for the most part since 1990. Did spend a few years, most recently in Charlotte, North Carolina, as I've always, for the most part, worked in banks. Over the last 10 years, I worked for a bank in North Carolina, but eventually made the decision to move back to Decatur in 2006, so it's been about 5 years now. Work at ADM in the finance department, manage the global pension plans, and the reason I'm running for office is quite simply that I think that the city's been on a pretty decent track here for the last few years. It's some of the most difficult economic circumstances we've ever faced, and the streets are still plowed, the potholes are getting patched, the police and fire departments are remaining staffed. So as a council member, you're one of six. I don't have any preconceived notions that I can change or fix everything that's going on with the city, but I think that we're on a good path. I think we need to to sustain the business-friendly environment, keep property taxes down, and provide basic city services so that Decatur remains an attractive place to live.
That would be me. My family moved here in 1963 from Alton. I worked at Mississippi Valley Steel for a few years before I went back to college in 1969. Graduated from Eastern in 1972 with a master's degree. Taught school for a very short time. Then I worked for the Dale Carnegie organization. I organized classes and taught some in this area. I worked for about 2 or 3 years for the Job Training Partnership. And then I went to work for Sears. Been there for the last almost 25 years. Been married for nearly 45 years. My reason for running for office, I've always had an interest in local affairs as well as national. But you can't start national if you don't have much of a footwork. So I thought it would be an opportunity to listen to and be a voice for the people. And as Mr. Dewey says, you're only one of 6 making a decision, but at least that sixth can have an input as to the direction things will go. I think the city, for the most part, has been run very well for many, many years. There have been a few glitches along the way, and those are the kind of things that kind of stick out like a hitchhiker's thumb and that you want to try to avoid having happen in the future. So I just see it as an opportunity for service and stewardship to the community, which, I've not prospered here, but I haven't done all that badly. So I'll look forward to serving in that capacity.
Okay. Pat?
Well, I was born and raised here. Matter of fact, my first home in Decatur was in downtown Decatur on the 3rd floor of Rock's Shoe Store. And I went through school here, came back from Vietnam in military service, and moved back to my roots here in Decatur. I bring to the position just a wealth of management marketing experience with national companies, regional, even a small business here in Decatur, and now with a not-for-profit company or organization, and also working for a newspaper. So I've spent since 2000 attending council meetings. I've probably missed maybe a half dozen over these years. I've been reported on the council for the newspaper since 2003. So I think I'm fully aware of what's going on in our community. Find out. I've been active in many community organizations, KONO, other civic organizations to boost and promote Decatur, not only inside Decatur but outside. And I think being on the sidelines and you watch everything that's going on, I think a lot of times you think that you might add your expertise to the decision-making process. I got my start really in local politics about 2000, 2001, when I started the campaign to save the transfer house as the official logo of Decatur. So, and the council eventually, I think it was about 2002, officially declared it the official logo of Decatur. So that's how I got my start in local politics.
Good. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Duies here, is just, tell us what would be your one major priority that you would try to do as a council member if you were elected?
Well, it's a good question. Usually when somebody answers a question with "that's a good question," it means I need a second to think about it. But
That's okay. Every politician that comes in this room says, that's a good question.
as far as one priority, I mean, obviously, absolute job number one of the council is to ensure that the right decisions are made for the long-term benefit of the community. I mean, you could rank, some projects that we'd like to get done. You could rank, a sort of hierarchy of, holding the line on property taxes. But when it comes right down to it, we just have to ensure that the choices the council makes are those that are in the best interest of the people, of the community, and for the long term. I think if we can hold the line on the finance side, better times are ahead. Maybe we can get to a little more traction on some of the bigger projects.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Lewis?
Many things come to mind. As I say, the fiscal issue is probably the most important thing, keeping the city solvent and in good financial order. I think in terms of projects, you could go through a list. If I were to pick out a single project that probably deserves the most attention, would probably be the water storage issue. We've over the last several years we've had a few pieces of drought activity, but if that lake were to become a worse than a mud hole, as somebody called it here a couple of weeks ago in one of the responses to a meeting that was held here. But if we don't have that lake, we don't have the industries that the lake supports. So this place could look like Lake City if we didn't have a lake. So that would be an issue that I would be trying to determine what would be the best course of action for that, to preserve and extend that, and make sure that that's a viable source of prosperity for the community as years go by.
Okay.
Well, I think utilizing my in-depth knowledge of pretty much all aspects of Decatur, and what's happening in Decatur, whether it's neighborhoods, business, not-for-profits, all aspects of community. I want to use that knowledge to move our community forward. I think any candidate running for the city council has to have both feet in the present, but have vision to look towards the future and make the decisions that will benefit the community. But again, using some common sense and figuring out that is this the best for our community with the lack of resources. And again, I think just using common sense to make the right decisions for all aspects of our community. And I think I bring a broader and in-depth and more balanced representation to the council that I think is sorely needed.
Anderson?
What was the question again?
What would be your main priority on the council? What's the one thing you'd like to do?
I basically would like to get involved in the school system, you know, public schools, and starting in the lower grades, maybe the junior high, and trying to reach out to them and let them know a little bit about how finances goes and what the city council does, and just make them a part of this. So when they grow up, they would be able to share with the next generation coming up. We have such a gap in communications between the generations, and that's where people sometimes get lost and feel left out. And another thing, just I think as a city councilman, you should be available to maybe go to have a booth out at the Hickory Point Mall, or, you know, we have town meetings every once in a while, and it seems to excite everyone. Why can't you make it like a monthly thing that the public library, city councilmen to be down here at such and such date and time, or a booth here, or just, you know, I know the budgets and all that is a problem, but the people that live here got to feel like they matter. And then the other things that work itself out. So that's what I would, you know, really attack the schools and the citizens, and just bringing things forth to include them. That's what I offer.
Okay.